And it says that we are live. Welcome anybody who is here. Still is not showing up on my channel screen for chat, but there it is. Hooray, we're live. All right, well, welcome to the debut episode here with JPS Live. This is Max. We're here with Jeremy from Rod of Iron, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the old shape of the Earth is, because a couple of years ago we kind of came to the old conclusion that it ain't what people are telling us. So we're going to give a little bit about how we came to the conclusion and found out about and maybe some things that you can test on your own to make up your own conclusions. Don't just believe us. It's pretty simple to find the truth here with what we're talking about. So I guess, do you have anything to start off with, Jeremy?
Not that I can think of, other than when we get into the storytelling here in a bit, I can tell how I got into it.
Well, my initial I've always been haven't been the type of person to immediately blow off crazy ideas instantly, but I'll give them at least a surface level investigation before I blow them off. And after I became a Christian and searching the truth, you get into all of these, of course you got to investigate aliens. It's a given. You got to do that. You got to investigate all these little rabbit trails with the guy who thinks that everybody's a snake monster. Who's that guy? David Icke.
David
Icke. Got to go down there. And in that sort of mix of cloud of stuff, you have these flat earth people. And most of them are complete hacks that are just out there to try and make a dollar. But then when you find the ones that know what they're talking about, they're pretty hard to debunk. It's sort of like trying to prove the sky is purple, as a matter of fact. And you follow it up and you run into enough things where it's absolutely, you can't, you see it for yourself, right? For instance, you have the formula for testing a curve of things that you shouldn't see, not very far away, like just after a few miles, you shouldn't be able to see something because it would be behind a curve, and things like that. That your mind wants to go, no, it can't be true. But when you put yourself out there like I have in the past and getting bashed by everybody for things, you just may as well check it out. And lo and behold, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, I've always been like sort of a geocentrist, right? But then I could never figure out how, if like the sun is this big huge thing spinning around, it'd be moving at the speed of light if it was spinning around the earth. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. So the sun's got to be close, the moon's got to be close, everything's obviously spinning around us. But the flat step, boy, that's a tough one. And I always held on to this idea that, well, because the constellations are different over my head than they are in the people that are supposedly in the south, and that means we have to live on a globe. But I can't lie to myself that much, to the point where it's like it really doesn't matter what the stars are doing. If I can see something that's 10 miles away that should be about underneath 200 feet of Earth curve, it doesn't matter. And it's easy to say, well, maybe the Earth is 100 times the size or whatever times the size of what they're telling us. And it's like, well, that's dumb too. That's making up excuses for them. When you go over distances, and people test it more and more, many more people are out there testing. And living in the land of 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, where I do, it's pretty easy that I know how big the lakes are and I can see across them, like the shoreline on the other side, a 10-mile lake. Shouldn't be able to do that. So I kind of just have to go, yeah. Now once you know, though, then what do you do? Because you tell some people, they're immediately going to write you off like an idiot. What you do, start a YouTube channel and do it anonymously. There you go. There's the answer. So that is the goal, really. But with the channel here is to come up with do science, some easy science stuff to actually show very simply that we live on a flat plane. We don't know the dimensions of it. We don't know anything about what's going up in the sky. We just know that it's flat and it doesn't move. So that's where the truth that I have come to. How about you, Jeremy?
Well, other than what I have taught and talked about in the Bible, yeah, from what I see, definitely. If I just use my eyes and just use what God gave me, obviously, you just look up in the night sky, you just look all around you, if you ever flown in a plane, you've ever been up in a tall tower, you can tell that we don't have a curve anywhere.
And in the plane, there's people that go, no, 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 I was up in the plane, it's curved. And it's like, yeah, did you notice the glass has is a fisheye glass? They do that on purpose so you can see.
Yeah. Right. So if you've ever been up on top of a mountain and you can see for miles and miles and miles and miles, you can see it's flat. You can see if you've been on the ocean. I used to live in Florida. You could see for miles and miles and miles of ocean, and like you see the sun, going over the, like they going away, I guess you could say, on the sunset, and you can see it pretty much eye level. It's because it's so far away from you. That's why it's not over your head anymore.
Sure, and that goes into what the horizon is. And the horizon is supposed to be, according to Globe Earth model, actually the curvature of the Earth is what the horizon is. But really, it is just the angular. It's how far your eyes can see before your eyes can't see anymore. That's all it is.
Yeah. Right.
Because you go in there with any sort of a high power optic lens, a telescope, a camera, or something, and oh hey, you can look right over that curve.
Right. And for me, how I got into this whole thing was, I say it was about 2015 or so, 2016, somewhere in there. I was just really curious one day because I've always believed that Earth was the center of the universe, and that we didn't move. I believed that for a long time. I never believed this solar system nonsense. There's just too many things that never made sense to me with that. So that was not proven. That was never proven to me because growing up in church, like I was, we were always taught the Earth was the center of the universe and that NASA's a liar.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, with that being said, I said one day, you know what? I'm just going to give this a try. I'm just going to give this a shot and see what these people have to say. Instead of just calling them crazy, why don't I just hear them out and see what they say?
Yeah.
So the first person I actually listened to was Eric Dubay. And I know he's got issues or whatever, but Eric Dubay was one of the ones that actually explained this stuff very, very well and, and called it out. And when he showed me what a star looked like through, a P1000 camera, which I have personally, and in this live stream, I'm actually going to show you guys pictures and videos of stars that I actually have taken from my camera. But anyway, I seen that, and he zoomed in on these stars, and they're like not what they say they are. A big burning ball of gas, millions of miles away, light years away. No. And then the curvature, and saying that how water doesn't bend, and if there was a curvature, then the people that made what's it called, the Panama Canal,
sure,
they would have to account for the curvature, and they didn't.
That was another thing that made me seriously investigate it, is that I could not. Usually how I go about it is that people can't do their jobs without having this information and using it. The thing about the satellites, I was kind of really skeptical about those because they don't calculate the speed of light in any equations when they're doing all these telemetry. And I'm like, that's really fishy because you would actually need that. And they don't use it anywhere. I'm like, kind of sounds like their speed of light stuff is bogus. And this is, of course, in researching creation. As of course, then you end up with your geocentric model where everything is going around us. But that means, then you're not married to the idea of stars being bazillions of miles away or anything like that. And you look at like how people use this information for their jobs, and you come onto like, well, there's mechanical machinery designed to be run on a flat plane, and that is how everything works. Everything works. Airplanes work like that. Boats work like that. Submarines work. They all use flat plane, flat terra maps, and all of the machinery is used for navigating that way. And then you look at the, of course, Panama Canal. China's got a bridge that's almost 100 miles long or something. And it's like, are they calculating the Earth curve in there? Because that many miles, you got like 10 miles of curve drop. Nope. But, I do hear that Marine snipers calculate the curve of the Earth when they're shooting up to a mile. It's like, huh. And, I have to, of course, laugh at that because I'm a somewhat of a history buff in World War II, and the battleships have their 16-inch guns that shoot up to about 20 miles, and you go up and you go, how are they calculating their target? Line of sight. Imagine that. Your line of sight targeting 20 miles away from your battleship. And
Right.
radar works the exact same way on surface to surface radar. It's basically line of sight, except the radar waves allow you to somewhat see something is out there a little bit farther, but it is still line of sight. And after realizing, I'm like, oh, I really got to look at these flat earth guys and see what they got to say. And the more things they come up with and the more debates, you get someone up there like Austin Whitsitt, Dave Weiss, Eric Dubé's got some questionables. He copied a lot of his stuff, but
He really did.
the big Nathan Thompson runs the biggest flat earth thing right now. And you watch these guys in a debate and they kind of just clown around because nobody can beat them. It's like you're defending the truth. It's easy to just sit there and bat away anything. The best they can do is poke holes in the models that people come up with like how the stars rotate, how the sun and moon rotate. And it's like, that doesn't matter. It's still not, it has nothing to do with the point that the ground itself is essentially flat. There is no curvature. So you can theory craft about the stars all day long and the sun and what they're doing. We don't know. We don't, whatever. That's just changing the goalpost. You still got to deal with the fact the earth isn't round. That's the main deal there.
Right. And it's the same thing when you fly in a plane or whatever. They have what you call a gyroscope, this little ball, and it tells you your level. And they also have a fly-by-wire flight control system, and it tells you your altitude and when you ascend and descend. So I've flown, all the way to California and back. That's a long ways from here. And the altitude did not change one time. Not once. It just stayed the same all the way.
Which is what it would do, but were you pitching down and flying downward all the way?
Right.
That was the question.
Right. Well, I mean, again,
you got to ride the curve, man. Ride the curve to keep the altitude.
That's what they'll say. But then again, they put their planes on autopilot and they go get themselves some coffee.
Right.
And whatever.
And it flies perfectly level at 1G, you'd say, 1 gravity. It flies perfectly level 1G at 0 ATA normally. That's angle of attack. That's what your gyroscope is doing. And it flies all the way in a straight line. And then you make little corrections for navigation because of the North Pole and whatnot. But yeah, you're perfectly level, perfectly straight. Whereas over that distance at 8 inches per mile squared, depending on your speed, you'd be banking downward at like 2 to 3 degrees the entire flight just to ride around the curve, which you would feel. You effectively, anytime you go on an airplane, if they are riding the curve, you should feel a little bit lighter. You should be at like 0.9 G as opposed to 1 G because you're pitching down. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. They treat everything. A lot of flat earthers actually, at the start, I probably had heard of flat earth maybe 10 years ago, and it was pilots. Sort of around, actually even longer than that, when Alex Jones was getting big, and of course that whole thing in September and all that stuff, and pilots that came out against the buildings and construction people and all this that say that was a whole bunch of nonsense. They also came out and said, oh yeah, and by the way, the earth is flat. And I go, what? And I have many hours in flight simulators and understand how that stuff works. And it's a gyroscope essentially is a spinning top.
Yeah.
That spins really, really, really fast, and it works on centrifugal force. So it's always spinning level no matter what. And what your dial or your gauge is showing you when you're in the cockpit is your plane in relation to that top that is spinning really, really, really fast. That's what it is. So the top is always level, always. So it's not going to work on a globe at all. It only works on a flat plane. That's the only way it would ever possibly work. And I've been using those things, since 1930s. Probably even before that on ships and boats. I'm not sure exactly what they in all use them for, but submarines use them like airplanes. And airplanes, of course, need them. But yeah, just something like that is like it's not going to work on a ball, yet we use them every day.
Right. And for those that don't know out there, G force is the times gravity, pushing against you or whatever.
Right, right. Well,
So
we have most flat earthers don't believe in gravity, and we could maybe get into that a little bit, but what I'll say is that gravity exists and that things will always fall downward. Okay, that's gravity. There's your there's your theory of gravity. Everything falls downward, and you call that 1g at the rate that things free fall. Now, when you have this whole thing where there's some kind of magnetic gravitational pull by the sun pulling on the earth, which pulls on the moon, which our satellites fall around, that's all nonsense. Okay, that's pure garbage nonsense.
yeah,
Things fall down, and it's largely, you can explain it all with buoyancy and density is how you explain why things fall through the air. It's what sort of medium that things are in as to whether they're falling or going up or what they're doing.
right. And the thing for me, the most thing, I don't know how much we're going to talk about it today, but the most thing for me is outer space. That's the big thing for me. And because like when I was a kid, outer space was a big deal. I always wanted to be an astronaut.
Oh, I got two very expensive telescopes in my garage right now that I just don't use because it's like, oh, there's nothing up there. It's like, oh, that kind of takes the fun out of Star Trek, which coincidentally was on the air right around the time of like NASA and all that stuff, and nobody got into. It was like, yeah, because I think they knew it was a hoax back then too.
Right. I mean, the main thing is to me is like we live in a closed system. We don't live in space. We're not an insignificant speck of dust, spinning at 666,000 miles per hour. Whatever, how much it is, I don't even know.
Oh, it's spinning at we're spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, rotating at like 66,000 miles per hour, or not rotating, but like orbiting the sun at 66,000, and the sun is going 600,000 miles an hour or second or something as it goes through the universe.
Right.
And everything kind of corkscrews. All the planets, they're corkscrewing through the universe. All this lateral movement everywhere, defying the laws of physics because we don't feel nothing. We don't feel anything at all. Perfectly motionless. And you can feel just an elevator. You hit the elevator button. You can feel that elevator go down. That's maybe a quarter of a G or something. Not even that much. It's probably less than a tenth of a G going down in that elevator, and you can feel it.
Yeah. I actually got some stuff here. Flat Earth, the plain truth. And it says, hi, I'm Albert Michelson, an American physicist. My experiment proves that Earth does not rotate. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have done this. There's a lot of people who have done experiments and they have proven, but yet they can't release it because they get, blacklisted. And they look like a crazy person.
Yeah, I really started to question science completely when there's a lot of physicists out there that say that the moon landing is a hoax just because rockets don't produce, and none of the numbers work according to science. You can forget about like their theory of relativity doesn't work for anything. The gravity theories that they have are good for two bodies or maybe three out there, but they can't explain how everything moves the way it does, which is why they're always changing orbits and they're always looking for planet X because none of their math makes sense. And then what they do is they say, well, 99% of the universe is dark matter. So there's a good chance it's dark matter that we can't see it. That's influencing how our math is not working out. So that's how they justify it. They say, well, dark matter must exist because our math is wrong. So there you go. That's the whole explanation there. But the physicist will go out there and say, the speed of the jet in space, if it is a vacuum, rockets ain't gonna work. It's sort of like having a boat motor on an airplane. You're not going to get off the runway like that because it doesn't work. Rockets they push against air. That's how a rocket will go up into the sky. If there's no air to push on, the rocket's not going anywhere. And even if we pretend the rocket will work in space, the rocket exhaust shoots out way slower than what they're saying those rockets are that are going to the moon, like way slower. So it's like the exhaust, you have the equal and opposite reaction to the rocket being fired, out the exhaust out the back, pushing the rocket. If the exhaust is only going 100,000 miles per hour, you can't have a space capsule that's doing 250,000 miles per hour.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that. So that's looking at that going, yeah, probably geocentrists. We're probably not doing anything in space. I did believe in satellites, though. I figured there's got to be a way they could do that, right? But then you get into that whole thing of you got this atmosphere on Earth, and you have pressure gradients, and pressure gradients require a container. And you can't just have a helium balloon without a balloon, right?
Right.
And if the space is a vacuum, it would suck everything out the planet off into space.
Right.
But they want you to believe you just go up and it's lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And next thing you know, you're in space floating away. Woo, just look at Elon Musk in his car. Woohoo.
But it's a vacuum, though.
Right. It's a near perfect vacuum that we cannot achieve on Earth. And we would never put a person in the vacuum chambers that we have on Earth because it would kill them instantly. Isn't that something? We actually have vacuum chambers that you could fit one of the sections of the ISS into to test the thing, which they've never done. And you can throw people in spacesuits in there, and they've never done it because they know it would just kill them. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And one of my favorites too is the what about satellite TV? What about radio waves, and what about these so-called signals we send to satellites?
We got GPS, man, GPS.
And GPS drops out in certain areas. So it's like, I don't think your satellites are very reliable then, or maybe they're coming from the ground.
Satellites are the most reliable product that we have ever created. They're all still floating around up in space. They're telling us they're space junk because of all the satellites. They've never broken down. They've never broken down. About once every 5 years, they say that some spy satellite is falling out of the sky. But other than that, they're not, as far as anybody knows, they're not repairing anything. It's just works perfectly all the time. HBO is always on. I wonder what the deal is.
Yeah. And it's funny because like a satellite, like you just go into certain areas, like you don't even have like a cell phone signal in certain areas, but yet, the president can call, the Apollo mission on the moon.
Right.
Landline phone. Yeah.
Yes. Which is where we can push more into the science of the sataloon, as we like to call them. The whole idea that we can send an image, not just a radio transmission, 260 or 240,000 miles to the moon, but we can actually send an image, moving pictures, which like moving pictures were pretty new back then. Like they're only like 30, 40 years old with throwing the audio on there. Yeah, we can do it from the moon though. The old transceiver didn't need to weigh, 50 tons at the time. Whatever. But they did it, right? They did it perfectly too the first time.
Right. And like for example, like if gravity ceases to exist in water, does it really exist anywhere else?
Right.
And the thing is like, because when you go in water, what do? You're floating around. Where's the gravity at there?
Yeah.
and people say, well, it's just a different type of mass.
There's a lot of excuses, and they all come back to gravity. Is really what it comes down to. Is gravity can do anything you need. Anything. But you know what gravity can't do? It can't make you see around a corner. Can't do that. So one of the easiest things that everybody can do out there to prove it for yourself, if you're living in a desert dry area where you have lots of space you can see out to the horizon really far off, if you live in an area with big lakes, do a little test. Look it up on Google Maps and see how far it is to the other side of the lake, to some landmark that you can see off in the distance. And your measurement that you need for 25,000 mile around Earth, that's the circumference. All right. So the angle, the arc going from where you're looking around a ball should be 8 inches per mile squared. So it's 8 inches the first mile. And then if you get to your second mile, it's 2 squared. So 4 times 8 inches. And you get to your third mile, it'd be 9 times 8 inches. And you do that out to however many miles you want. But at the 3 mile mark is where they say most people's horizons is, because that is about the 6 feet mark. So people's horizons are going to be about 3 miles off with the naked eye. But then you grab yourself a P900 or a P1000 camera, and it turns out you can see about 20 miles, 10 to 20 miles, depending on atmospheric conditions. Now, this isn't all the time, because they don't want to tell you that you are, the atmosphere and what you see in your little area, in your little bubble, is very unique to people, individual people, depending on how you interpret colors, how much of the spectrum you can kind of see. And you can defeat some of that with modern day optics and with infrared and things like that. But what you see with the naked eye is a limitation of your physiology in your eye, as well as angular limit. When you get very far out there, things turn invisible. Once they're far enough out and small enough out, your eyes don't have the capability of seeing them. It's like a blind spot. So that's an easy way for anyone to go out and go prove right now. If they got a cell phone tower out there, you can find out how tall it is and how far away you could see it. Buoys on water, talons that are on the other side of big lakes. See how much you can see with any kind of a zoom optic, binoculars, or anything that just gives you a little bit of an edge. And the colder, the better, because the more humidity in the air, of course, the more sort of a miraging or masking effect you're going to have. But again, that's determined by, the atmosphere for a lot. What else is an easy one you got, Jeremy?
Gosh, I'm drawing a blank now.
I'm gonna go with, you can go out and spin a top. Spin a top and try to make the top not spin like, a gyroscope.
Well, I'd say probably one of the easiest ones to me is water, because water doesn't bend.
There you go. Perfect. So water is a natural level. They talk about sea level. It's called sea level for a reason, because water is always level. It does not bend at all. And they can build bridges apparently out to 110 miles long over there in China. I wonder how much earth curve they put in there. I'm going to bet none.
And I guarantee you, people will be like, well, what about the sun? The sun obviously sets. We're moving around the sun, and all that stuff. It's like, okay, well, first of all, the sun is what's moving. We're not moving. The sun is moving. Right. And really the sun, when you look at it, it's all about your perspective. Because like, if you were to do this at home, and I've had many people do this at home, and they're just kind of shocked that they didn't even realize that you can actually do this. But if you stand under a porch light, at your house, like you just stand under there and you walk about 5 feet backwards, where is it going to be? Is it going to be above you, or is it going to be at an angle? It's going to be in an angle. So like, if you keep on moving back, eventually it will come to eye level. So who's moving? It's the sun that's moving away from you. So that's why it's getting further and further down in the sky, because it's moving farther and further away from you. It's the same thing with the light in your porch. The further back you get from it, the more it's going to be at eye level. And eventually it will be at eye level.
Sure. And then we can talk about that with the eye level deal too. On a ball, it makes no sense for you being 35,000 feet up in a jetliner headed to California and looking out the window and the horizon being at your eye level. Okay. Despite the fisheye lenses they put in there, and it looks like there's a slight curve, if you look out there, the horizon should not be at your eye level. The horizon should be significantly lower than what it would be if you were standing on the ground, if you were on a ball. However, horizon always comes up to eye level, which is only possible on a flat plane.
Which is called convergence, by the way.
Sure.
And it will always be at the same level, no matter how big it is. So, or how high it is, it will always be there.
Or how far you zoom in.
Yeah. So, like, I had this one thing up here for a second. It says, like, the horizon is always eye level because the laws of perspective that are observed on our flat Earth, this is irrefutable proof that the Earth is not a globe. If the Earth were a globe, the horizon would fall with increasing altitude, but this is not what we observe because the Earth is flat. The vanishing point is the spot directly ahead of us. where objects become smaller with increasing distance. The firmament, the dome above us, prevents us from being able to go up high enough to photograph the entire Earth. Which I do believe, by the way.
We can't go up and get a picture.
Not like so far up to where like you can just get like the whole Earth. Like, you know, they get up and they get like the big.
You're gonna hit the top. We're gonna hit the top. Now we're into like different ideas about flat Earth and what different people say.
Yeah,
I'm about as far as it appears that we're flat, and if there is a South Pole, it probably is the ring thing, just
right.
like what Jeremy has for an avatar. It's actually the UN map, and that would make sense just because it is the UN map. Like, oh, of course they would use that to kind of rub it in our faces.
Right.
That just makes total sense. But there's a lot of evidence that points that there is a dome overhead, and that the stars are inlaid in it. Who knows? We really can't tell. A lot of people have different ideas about different things on it. What is for certain though is you don't go up to, what is it, Flat Earth Society? Don't go there. If you want to research flat Earth, don't go there. That's a controlled idiot propaganda machine that has all kinds of nonsense up there. As this channel matures, I'll have more and more stuff out for excellent experiments and excellent content that I'll have up here. But yeah, don't go to the old Flat Earth, whatever it is, Flat Earth Society. That's a bunch of nonsense. So what do you think of where we live? You're a dome guy, right?
Yeah, well, I'm a dome guy because what I can prove from scripture, but scientifically, you know, I mean, that's a little bit harder to prove just because you can't really see it. The only time you can really make it out is like in certain conditions where the sun is shining, it will reflect. You can kind of make out the appearance it's reflecting off of it, you know.
Sure.
So you know, if I'm looking at it from a scripture point of view when it comes to the dome, you know, because I can prove it from scripture. But if you're just telling some random Joe on the side of the road that doesn't know God, you know,
right.
Obviously you need to show some. They kind of need to see some evidence of it. You know what I mean?
Well, once you prove that they've never been in space and satellites aren't real, then it's like, oh, it's obviously because there's a dome and they can't get out.
Right.
that would be, and then you look, and there is a lot of I don't know what they call conspiracy wives' tales. I used to refer to them as, where you have crazy old Admiral Byrd, who is the youngest, most decorated admiral, and you know he's like 35 and an admiral of a fleet and all this, and this renowned explorer who apparently went and flew through the area of the ice wall, the South Pole or the South Ring, whatever, I don't know what you call it, right? The outer areas, and said there was more land than you could possibly imagine, and has all these ideas. And then there's Captain Cook in history books, where probably not in history books, he's probably in the conspiracy side of things, but says he tried to circumnavigate what he considered be the South Pole, and it took him 3 years. South Pole's not that big, right? And he's riding around this gigantic wall, he says. And these are all, you know, obviously you can't make a scientific conclusion on that, but if you take those ideas along with what is fact of what we were doing in the 40s after World War II in Antarctica and the Antarctic Treaty that says that nobody is allowed to go to Antarctica for any reason, which makes it, and they have Operation High Jump, where you've got Werner von Braun down there in Antarctica launching rockets. What are they trying to do? And then you've got a few years after that where they want to all of a sudden try and drill the biggest holes in the ground. It kind of makes it sound like, you know, Under the Dome by Stephen King, where everyone's trapped in a bubble and they're trying to figure out how to get out. That's what it exactly sounds like. And I'd say that Stephen King is part of the elite somewhere in there and knows the truth, and they wouldn't let him write about it when he wanted to back in the 70s. They let him write about it recently, like 10 years ago or something. But yeah, I think they found the dome and they're trying to poke holes in it and try and get out. That's what I think.
Well, and also you have the 1960s where they were firing the I can't remember what the operation is called, but where they were firing nuclear missiles at the dome.
Yeah,
they were impacting off of it somehow. So I don't think they were just going up into space and just exploding, because they wouldn't explode in space. If space is a vacuum, well, obviously they're not going to explode, you know. And
that gets into the whole do nuclear weapons even exist thing.
It does. It really does, you know. And also on top of that, combustion cannot happen without air. So
Sure.
that doesn't work either. It's like, well, how's the sun burn? Well, if the sun is in a vacuum, how's it burning if there's no air? See,
It's a guess that they don't ever have to validate, so they can write it down, and it's a cool story, bro. Cool story, bro. It's apparently burning. The literal story is that it's a burning ball of hydrogen.
Yeah,
it's like a nuclear reactor, and it's like, well, hydrogen doesn't burn like that. Well, maybe it does in a vacuum, smart guy. You ever think of that? It burns like that in a vacuum. It's like, oh, okay, all right. And I'm sure it's 93 million miles away too. Oh yeah, got my tape measure. It's like, yeah, right.
I love the comment here that GT56 says, I like the video of the NASA guy says we can't go to the moon anymore because we lost the technology.
Yep. And he sounds like a rocket scientist, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I can't go to the moon anymore because we destroyed the technology.
And they come out and tell you that every picture of the Earth is photoshopped. They come out and just say it.
Yeah. Well, that, and they also say that they can't go anywhere because of Van Allen radiation belts, and then that they hope one day that they'll be able to get through that and onto Mars. And it's like, don't you guys remember you already did that? You guys don't remember 1969 or whatever, or whenever they're doing that? Oh, that's right. It didn't happen. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
One of those guys out there made his thing. The lunar model, is it the lunar module of the homeless tweaker shelter? That's the old joke, because it does look like that. I mean, they cleaned it up a lot. If you look up the lunar module on Google, in Google Images, that's the cleaned up sort of. A lot of them are cartoon images, but if you look at the actual real one, that is sitting in Texas, I think the actual real one looks like a tweaker shelter. It looks way better in the fake photographs.
Right.
I went out there where it's like plus like 100 or 300 degrees Celsius up there. Sure. I went there in my tinfoil box.
Yeah. You want me to believe they flew to the moon in that piece of crap?
Yeah. And that your millimeter thick little cardboard box is going to keep out vacuum of space.
No, come on.
Right. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. That's ridiculous. It's funny because like the media knows, and the people running it, they know that people will believe them if they say scientist says it. So
we'll get into that a second about why people absolutely reject it. But I do want to bring up the fact there's some other things people in here asking about Magellan and some other people about proving it's flat. Now look, everybody in the history knew it was flat. Okay, all them guys. Columbus didn't think he was sailing off the edge. He wasn't a moron. He was trying to go to India or something, and ended up here. And he's like, well, good enough. Give me more money. Okay. I mean, all of these people knew. They just didn't know where it was. There's limitations of supplies and things like that. So it's like, yeah, they knew. They weren't afraid of falling off the edge. They're afraid of running into ice reefs and disease and running out of supplies. So they'd like to know where they were going before they just headed off into the wild blue yonder. That was the situation back then. But
right.
There are maps that are ancient maps that have the entire Earth mapped out, like completely. That I think the Navy Department actually has like used. The Navy Department went through and mapped with radar all around like Antarctica and stuff like that, and the maps are pretty good. Of course, we know they're fake. We know that they're fake now, but you wonder, how did they do it so accurately back in the day? Well, it's because they actually probably sailed around the ice wall. And then when they wrap it around a beach ball, all of the edges line up to what those guys were doing back in the day. But everybody's always used a flat map. And even to the point where there's interviews that I'll probably upload to this channel with people that are over 100 years old that were in grade school in the early 1900s, were taught in grade school, public schools, that the Earth was flat. And then they say, yeah, they later came out and said that it was a ball. And I'm like, well, I really couldn't figure that one out. But yeah, we were taught in school that the Earth was flat. So when anyone says, oh yeah, there's a 2,000-year-old idea from cavemen or something, no, it wasn't. Everybody knew the Earth was flat back in the 1800s. Everybody. because everyone's
And
job, there was no such thing as computers. There wasn't really such thing as propaganda, okay, and controlling the masses like there is today, or even post 19. I would say post 1945 with the military industrial complex, because they really decided they want to control the planet at that point. But before that, people had free minds, and you're not going to tell them that they live on a spinning ball going thousands of miles an hour when they're out there plowing their field and they, can see something super far off and go, that's nonsense. Or somebody who sails ships in boats, you're not going to tell them that. Or the early guys who were flying airplanes, Charles Lindbergh, yeah, Earth's the ball, dude, and he's going to be like, no. If you know a pilot right now, a lot of people might know pilots or have relatives or friends. Ask them. Do they pitch the airplane down to ride the ball? Go ahead and ask them.
Nope.
Just don't ask your Marine sniper friend who says, "Oh yeah, man, I do the trigonometry of the Earth curve." No, because he's just trying to make out like he's a big guy who knows all about shooting and pulling triggers.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Really, the only thing they got to account for at that long of a range is wind speed and
yeah, that's all they can.
Bullet drop.
That's all they can. I mean, the Coriolis effect, or the seeming of the Coriolis effect, is the fact there's air currents. You're shooting a bullet through a medium, and you have different temperatures and different air currents. The farther out you go, the air currents aren't going to be the same in front of your gun as they are downrange. Neither is the temperatures. And also the bullet is spinning. So that accounts for all of your Coriolis equations. And I forget the name of the thing where they say, see, the Earth has to be spinning because we have Foucault's pendulum. Foucault's pendulum tells us the Earth is spinning. And it's like, if that was accurate, where it's showing Earth curvature in that Foucault pendulum, then how come helicopters don't have to deal with it? Planes don't have to deal with it. You kick a football, you don't have to worry about Earth curve. The Earth spinning out from underneath the football. Nothing makes sense. It's like you want to use logical science over here and illogical science over here, mix them all together and say, ta-da, see, look, it works. And I like to go back, like in schools, what you're taught is immediately mind control globe. Mind control globe. Now, if the Earth was a globe, the most important mathematical equation they would drill into everybody's head, because everybody would need to know it, is 8 inches per mile squared. Everybody would need to know that. It's more valuable than Pythagorean theorem, because any job is going to require that. If you're building something, you would need to know Earth curve if it was a thing. But nope, never taught it. Never taught it. Things like that make you go,
Well, one of the funny ones to me is that flat Earth is a new teaching. Well, no, it isn't. Just like Max here said, that people have always believed it. It wasn't until like the 1900s that the ball Earth thing came about,
where it was being taught in school, right?
Right, and you go back to 1800s, 1700s. I have a book from a guy from the 1800s. It's called Exotic Astronomy: Earth Not a Globe. It's from a Christian, a Bible believer. And back then they didn't have new versions. So obviously he was a Bible believer. He was a King James Bible believer.
Right.
And so anyway, when people say this is a new teaching or whatever, this is a new age teaching, really? You really don't know history very well then. And then I see these ignorant posts all the time about like this flat disc sitting in the solar system.
Oh, sure.
It's like, then you really don't have any idea what really makes up the flat earth theory.
Nobody is going to put 2 seconds of time worth. I mean, because honestly, people are pretty stupid these days. I mean, I'm not going to get over it. I mean, I'm pretty, in comparison to where I was even a year ago, I don't have a lot of time for a lot of BS anymore. All right. Yep. I really don't have a lot of time. I've been doing my thing on my other channel for 6-7 years. And it's like, if you want to ask me baby questions about this, that, and the other thing, is like, go look, put up 2 seconds of effort and look through my content. I don't have time to sit and argue with you. You believe what you want to believe, and that's fine, and move on. And it's like the same thing with here is like, look, 8 inches per mile squared. We can prove you can see things too far. Don't tell me about the sun and the moon. Don't tell me about how it's an idea that's, goes back to people in cavemen or something, and modern science is so wonderful until you beat me at 8 inches per mile squared. Once you do that, then you can come back. But the problem is you can't. And people, we'll get into this now, is why people reject it. Number one, they don't want to waste or spend the time to look for themselves, and they want to reject it because it makes them feel part of the club, makes them feel powerful. And when they think you might be right, people go through PTSD when they have to deal with this, okay? Because you have to understand now that whatever your worldview was before, it's going to change. And that's going to pay. The farther you are from God, when you have to come to the realization you live on a flat plane and been lied to all your life, when you come to that realization, if you're not with God, you're going to have some huge problems, because now you have to admit that there is a creator God. You are accountable for your actions, and all that stuff that your Bible thumping neighbor was telling you. There's a good chance that has an equal chance of being true now, because everything you thought was real was fake. And some people spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in education to study this stuff, like astronomy and things like that, and space, to find out that it's all bogus. It's all bogus. So your brain will go through this natural fight or flight mentality that eventually, hopefully, people will snap out of. But if you deny the facts right in front of you, there's no saving you, at that point. But that is why people will immediately start attacking, because once you start making sense, you're going to get attacked harder and harder and harder. It's the same when you tell people about Christianity, creation, evolution being garbage, stuff like that. They have the same reaction to it, because some people's lives depend on this stuff. Like I pay $700 a month in my college tuition loan payments, right? Because I'm a NASA guy and I got all this debt. I'm into space engineering and rocket engineering, and it's all garbage. That's hard, and it causes like a, I don't know, PTSD sort of a thing, where you go through a depression, and it's rough on people.
Oh yeah, I've witnessed that myself. When you tell somebody, especially a baby Christian, that you tell them all this truth, and that everything they learned growing up, from whether it be their parents or school or whatever, everything is a flat out lie.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny, flat out lie.
There you go. We're good for the puns. We're good for the puns.
Anyway,
this is why this channel exists, by the way, is to let you know that, hey, you're not crazy out there. If you think this way, you're not crazy. There's a lot of flat earthers. There's millions of flat earthers out there, millions, from all different walks of life.
Right.
People that aren't scared. I mean, there are a lot more flat earthers out there than what anybody thinks, because a lot of people, their job depends on upholding the lie and not saying anything about it, just like evolution. Okay. There's a lot of people that can't say anything. They'll get fired. They'll get grounded if they're a pilot. Okay.
They're not allowed to even speak about stuff they see above 65,000 feet, by the way.
Well, yeah. I'm 65,000. That's going to be military.
Yeah. So
they don't get to talk about anything.
Right.
I mean, like your commercial pilots, or even just a guy who, flies around in a Cessna and stuff like that.
Right.
If you come out with your Earth is flat and you make the local newspaper, then they'll take your license. Nutcase. He's going to crash it into somebody's house. Nope.
Well,
I don't know that they go that far, but definitely if you work for like United Airlines, you can't tell them that you think the Earth is flat.
Well, do you think that's something that would be a question on the application? Do you think the Earth's flat or a ball?
Pretty much. Yeah. That's your that's your qualifier. Just like, do you have a felony? There you go.
But anyway, I was going back to the PTSD thing, because I've seen this thing before with like baby Christians that are in the prim and proper organized religion nonsense, and they have to dress a certain way or act a certain way, and they have to be this certain person, and you come out and you realize that, oh, hey, most of the Bible believers, or most of the Christians in the Bible, were dirtbags, and they turn out to be great men of God. It's not this thing where it's like, oh, you got to be this great, power or whatever. You just got to have so much power, and I'm entitled to be a globe earther. I'm entitled to do what my government tells me to do, because you know why? The government's ordained by God, because my pastor tells me so. I don't question anything what my authorities say. That's the mindset of most people in America, and it's sad. In the world,
because it's the lazy approach. which everybody loves not having to do anything.
Yeah.
That's why people hold on to that thing where it's like, oh, well, God says I should follow the laws in the government. There we go. I don't have to do nothing. Now it's God's fault. See,
Yeah.
this is why Calvinism is so popular, is because it becomes God's fault and you don't have to worry about nothing.
Instead of just saying, oh, well, men are accountable for their own actions. But no, that's not the way it is. It's God's fault.
There you go.
Or gravity's fault, too, in our case.
Why didn't you tell me?
So, but anyway, go ahead.
So I don't know how many people that are in the chat or even how many people are watching. It says like 10, but I think there's more than that. How many people are flat earth and how you found us? If you want to put on there, if you all know us from somewhere. It's a brand new channel, and I actually had to put something on the channel before it would even show up in the search. So I don't know. I'm actually pretty happy with even having 10 people on tonight. It's pretty great. As we grow and do more and more, there'll be more and more information. Right now, we're just doing kind of the baby steps. And what's great, you're talking about people with super degrees and all this stuff, and he's an expert. Look at Neil deGrasse Tyson's. He's got so many degrees, and yet he sounds like a moron when he speaks, just gibberish. Because it's like, what kind of crack you smoking? You're coming out with the stuff that you explain the Earth is pear shaped. What? Yeah. Is that a joke? Are you joking with me, Neil deGrasse? And I think that he is. He is like joking. I think that a lot of things, especially in dealing with NASA, that they put things in there just for people to find, to go, ha, 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 we're stealing 50 million a day from you. Ha, ha. Because it is so amateurish, the graphics that we get from the space stuff. And you have all these people that are NASA fanboys that are like, oh, someday we're going to be living on Mars. And I'm like, you do realize that they said they put a car in orbit, right? And it looks like it looks like something I could do with my computer in a free version of OBS Studio. But yeah, okay, there's a car up there. And about these people who have these degrees and apparently know something, I realize that on the flat Earth side, there is a lot smarter people than these figureheads, which is what they are, that get put up there and they give them a script as to what to say to what sort of screened question that they're allowed to ask, right? Another reason that I had to listen to flat Earth people was there are people with multiple doctorate degrees in physics that were some of the flat Earth people, the original channels out there that were the original guys getting thrown off of YouTube with multiple doctorates in physics and being able to beat up other physics people who want to try and tackle them, because it's like, you're going to tell me about physics? I was awarded by the Queen for my prowess or whatever. It's like really, really, really high level smart guys in the flat Earth community, as well as your average Joe can go out there on the lake. Okay, this isn't like upper crust level. You have to be an astronaut to know what the truth is. Anybody can go out there and go find it. You don't need to be Neil deGrasse Tyson or any of this stuff. You don't need to have your physics degrees. However, if you have all of that, you're more aware of where the holes are in the whole globe Earth plan and the whole cosmology idiocy that is out there. Everyone makes fun of cosmology, by the way. Literally everybody makes fun of cosmology. The physics people do, the mathematicians do. All because it's like their margin for error is like, 50% or something. I mean, it's a ridiculous number that they can just change their numbers as they feel like. It's all made up. And the real people out there tell you that.
That's like, I love the movie The Matrix for that, because, like the Matrix is a system, and these people are just like, so, I guess you can say, like, ingrained or just so caught up in the system. And like what Morpheus said in that movie, and oh my gosh, I'm such a wicked sinner for quoting a movie. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. The system is our enemy, but until we do, these people are still part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And how much truth is in that one quote right there? Yeah.
That's why I'm convinced that the Wachowski brothers had nothing to do with the writing of that movie.
Yeah.
That movie is like a total masterpiece with all this truth in it. And then you have 2 and 3 that are horrible. It's like, obviously they didn't write the first one.
Right. Yeah, the last two I didn't care for at all. They were kind of pointless. But again, it's like they put a lot of truth in movies. If you actually sat down and watched a movie, in recent history,
Yeah, I
there.
watch NASA all the time.
Which one?
I watch NASA all the time.
That's a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, they're running around on wires, and the last one they have a mouse crawling around on the rocket as it's supposedly boosting a satellite into orbit. Yeah,
Swimming in swimming pools.
yeah, bubbles in the out in space. We got too much algae on the solar panel, Bob. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
So you said, what do you do? What did you have pictures of that we can see?
Okay. So you want me to do that?
I have. Sure. What did you have? Star pictures, or what did you have?
I have videos.
Oh, okay.
So give me
We can
one
go into
minute. You can keep
go into
talking.
video art.
You can go ahead and keep talking while I pull them up. So
Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking then, and take a look at chat and stuff like that. So I guess a lot of people. I guess I had a lot of flat earthers over on the old Max Power channel that follow us over here. Good to see us. Just so you know, like the reason I have to do this channel and kind of separate things out is because if people who want to listen to Christian theology don't necessarily want to hear about the earth is flat, they want to live in their own little bubble and not want to worry about it. And there's, honestly, it's hard to say that that's the wrong thing to do because the earth is, we're in the old end times here with you got the old corona and all that going on, and people have enough stress and enough problems, and it is very difficult to deal with the fact that you've been lied to all your life, and you can't really tell anybody, otherwise you're going to get ostracized. Especially if you had a problem even becoming a Christian in the first place and getting ostracized for that. Now you're going to throw onto it flat earth stuff, and also the plane and what the earth, the qualities of the earth, has nothing to do with religious barriers at all. There are a lot of people who will use the say the Bible proves flat earth, and I'm not one of those guys. I'm going to say it seems to indicate that, but it doesn't by any means prove it. Atheists live on a flat earth too. So do the Muslims, and so does everybody else. So I don't want to be called a crazy creationist, fundamentalist Christian flat earther, and like it's all like the same thing, we like to segregate it out a little bit more than that. So we have ideas from more different areas and get to be a little bit freer and away from the Bible stuff. Otherwise, you end up having a Bible argument 1 second, an Earth argument another second, and a NASA argument. And yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna have everybody calling each other heretics in the chat, arguing over who has a belly button and who is a racist. So yeah.
Me on the other hand, I don't care. I'm going to preach on my channel.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
I guess I need to close out my mail. Perfect time to call. Haven't talked to Theo in a long time. All right, hopefully that fixed it there.
All right.
So anyway, do you have your stuff up?
Can you see this? Can you see the moon here? This video here?
I don't see anything other than the normal stuff. Did you click the share?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, I have to click the add to stream. That's a new feature.
Okay, there we go. All right, can everybody see that?
I can see that. It should. There.
All right, I'm going to play this. This is a video of the moon. I do apologize that it's a little bouncy because my tripod that I have sucks. It's not motorized, so I'm having to keep the moon in frame because the moon is moving when I'm zoomed in really far like this. So I apologize. So let's just play this. The moon right here. What the heck? This is the moon. It's not the chip. Well, let's keep freezing. I don't know why it's freezing, but anyway. Come on. It's not the Cheshire Cat smile. It is the moon with cheap. And it's freezing.
Do you need the audio to go through? Because I'm getting a little bit of an echo when you have it through.
Okay, let me do this. I muted it on my end, so maybe that'll help. I think what I did was when I recorded this video, I think I recorded in too high of a resolution because my computer can only handle 1080, and I think I think I recorded this in 4K.
Oh yeah, that's probably not going to work over your wireless.
Okay, let me see here. Let me go to another because I did change.
I'm not even showing my face or webcam up here because I figured my internet's not going to handle it.
Right. Let's see here. I got some more that are 1080. So I mean,
And you're doing all this with a P900?
P1000 camera. Come on.
Darren Dillon brings up Polaris. Yes, everything rotates around Polaris. Polaris never moves.
Okay, around here recording moon. Two.
Okay, hold on. Can everybody see that?
Do you need to have the audio on the video you're playing? Because I think it's doubling it. It's playing you and it's playing the audio on the video.
Okay.
So yeah. You play it with no audio and just describe what we're seeing.
Well, the reason why I'm doing it with audio is just that way I can actually prove it was me recording and not some fake crap I got off the internet. You know what I mean?
Well, there's only 10 of us. You're only lying to 11 people now. So. It's a good picture. You use any kind of filters or anything?
Nope. No filters. Let me go forward a little bit. I think this one's 4K as well. Let me find another one that's not 4K.
Well, yeah, that's 800 megabytes, man.
Yeah.
An 800 megabyte movie would take me about 4 to 5 hours to upload.
Let's see, which one is this one? I don't have these labeled, so I don't even remember what they all are. That one doesn't look like it's anything. Okay.
Do you have to play it, or could you click through it?
I'm clicking through it. Like I'm skimming through it.
Well, you could go to the high-res one and just click through it.
Okay, hold on. Well, I've got more than just that. I mean, I've got a bunch on here. Go away. Let's see what this one is. Here's Saturn right here. This is a good one. And you see me bouncing it around and stuff like that because things moving so fast I can't keep it in frame very long.
Yeah, I need one of them there tripods.
Let me skip.
So what is the thing you're going to prove with these, or?
Well, I'm gonna show everybody here in a minute the stars. I mean, I'm not proving anything with like the planets or the moon or anything like that, but like,
well, see, the planets are around, therefore we live on a globe. I hear that argument all the time. We could talk a little bit while you're looking for stuff. We can talk a little bit about the arguments against flat Earth that are just blatantly stupid.
Right.
Like look at the sun and the moon are round, therefore that we're on a globe. Well, are the sun and the moon globes? We don't. Yeah. Are they? I don't think so. I mean, the moon always faces us all the time. Doesn't really look like a globe. But the eclipse, it's a round shadow. It's like that doesn't matter at all. You can, the shadow shape has nothing to do with, like, they say that phases of the moon and all that stuff has to do with the sun and the Earth being in between the sun and casting a shadow on the moon, which is garbage because there are plenty of days where the sun and the moon are in the same part of the sky and it's a half moon. So that's obviously blatantly false.
Well, and also if you actually look at Saturn here, does it look round to you? It doesn't to me.
Well, it's kind of round. Got some rings, but I mean, spherical?
No.
They all look like they're stickers. They all look two-dimensional to me.
Right. Right, exactly.
That's you get a better picture of that than I do out of my $400 telescope.
Here we go. Let me go back to this spot again. Just wait till you see the star Sirius. That one blew me away. Look at that. All right, right there. Stop right there for a second. Go back to this spot again. About.
So I see still Saturn. You have Sirius or something in there somewhere?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the real clear picture of Saturn. Like I'm just trying to freeze frame it on there.
Oh, it's been coming up on this stream as being pretty clear.
Okay.
Let the people that are watching here that if you have like a 130 millimeter telescope and you have some pretty good lenses for it, that's about as good as you're going to see Saturn and the planets. And he's just doing it on a camera that costs about the same, a camera that you can take pictures and video with and all sorts of things.
Hold on. Let's see here.
Cool, hun. Cool, hun.
I don't know why it's playing the audio. Hold on. There we go. Okay.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Come on, quit doing that. All right. Well, this star right here, this is Vega.
Well, obviously that's a gas ball in space.
Yeah, it just totally looks like one.
All those fancy pictures that you see from NASA are all garbage. You get a high-powered telescope, they see the same thing you do, a big speck of light in space.
That's pretty much all it is. That's pretty much what these things are. It's just a speck of light. Let's see here. Let me find the serious one. Because that one blows me away, even to this day.
The moon.
Be almost worth waiting for.
Yeah, I really didn't do that last year. And when I moved to the other town I was living in, I just kind of forgot about it. I didn't know if I was ever going to use it again because I was going through all that depression and stuff and anger with the cult I came out of.
Yeah.
So I refused to speak the name of it. But so I didn't really know what I was going to do at that point. Just kind of
Boy, by now you got to be like a grizzled scab. You got to deal with flat Earth. You got to deal with the cults. You came out and you're still alive.
Yeah, that is true. Let's see what this one is. Okay.
There we go.
Can y'all see that?
Yeah, it's about 15 seconds behind.
That right there is the North Star.
All them different colors.
Oh yeah. You can see it's really hard to keep it in frame. I don't think this is the North Star because it moves really fast.
Yeah, no, North Star was fixed.
Yeah, the North Star was fixed. That's not it. I have a video of that one too. Let's see, September.
Do you have any photographs or anything?
I've got some photographs. I'll show those here in a second. I wish it had stopped doing that. That'd be nice. Let me see what this one is.
The moon.
I'm failing miserably right now.
Yeah, that's okay.
I look like the biggest idiot right now. Let's see what this one is.
All I have while you're finding your thing is my wife sent me a thing today that was on the Weather Network, and I think I will take over your screen. I remove that. I will try and do this thing here now. Share my screen. Okay. People see that? It covers up my chat screen so I don't see it. Do you see it, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we have here is from the Weather Network that came out, I don't know, today, July 10th. NASA pens new rules to prevent us from contaminating the moon and Mars. They're worried about space pollution on other planets, guys. Space pollution on other planets. We're going to need a carbon tax for our astronauts placing their candy wrappers on the moon and all of the terrible, terrible, terrible environmental damage that we can do to all these planets that we can't get to. NASA pens new rules to prevent us from contaminating the moon and Mars. NASA has a strict set of guidelines for sending missions out into space. Yeah, I bet. To prevent Earth microbes from contaminating planets and moons that we visit. Now the agency has revised those rules to clear the way for human missions to the moon and eventually Mars. See, that's the reason we haven't been back to the moon, man. Environmental regulation. Have we never learned? That's crazy. Anyways, I thought you guys would enjoy that. Do you find something for us to look at?
Working on it.
All right.
Shots.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of still shots.
So as we have wonderful NASA photography that all looks like this, as you see. It's all CGI, painted landscape, all photos. There's Photoshop Earth that they just put in here with a nice artist rendering of an astronaut walking around. This is, they say, an artist rendition of the Mars rover, but the Mars rover actually does look like that. They built a little model and they say that it's driving around right now on the surface of Mars. Again, a cartoon and another cartoon. We don't get any reality with NASA at all. Just how it goes. NASA's InSight mole suffers another setback. That must be their Mars lunar nonsense. And
Okay.
doesn't want to pull that up. You got it?
I found it.
All right. Well, let's see. Can I stop doing this thing? Stop screen. Add. And there you go.
All right. So am I back on sharing screen now?
Yes, it's just going to take about 15 seconds for it to get live. There it is.
Okay. This is Sirius, the Sirius star. It's the brightest star in the sky, actually. And here it is zoomed in on.
Now, where would somebody find this? What constellation?
It's
Is
not
it
an
part of the-
constellation that I know of. It's like it comes up in like 3 o'clock in the morning. You can see it come over the horizon, and it's really bright and it flickers like all different colors. As you can see it here, does that look like a ball of gas to you? This is the best video I've gotten of a star in the sky. Is it playing at all?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like stuck on 340 for some reason. There it goes.
So your computer can't even play it?
And I think it's because I'm doing the. There it goes. Now it's playing. You see that? Look how it flashes all different colors. It's like almost like a jelly shape. Like it's just like some kind of jelly. Like some kind of disco light.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, there's that. That's probably one of the best ones, that I have for video. And I got some pictures of stuff. Let's see here if I can pull these up. Yeah, here we go. There's the moon. Check this out. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. Look at that. Okay. This is a picture I got of the moon. And you see what's that?
Here you have your phases, or is it eclipse or something?
No, it's the actual. It's like I can't remember the type of this one is. I think it's like waxing or something like that. But it's a crescent, and you can see like the shadow part of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not look to me like that's solid.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can see you can see stars and things through it, so it's hard to
Right.
tell the positioning of where things are in the sky.
Right. Let's see here. Close this out. Let's see what else I got on here. These are such high resolution photos that my computer's having a hard time pulling them up. It's another picture of the moon. Another moon picture. I don't know how well those pictures are showing up for you guys, but
Oh, I can see it. Oh, yeah.
another moon picture. It's a video.
So do you do some long distance stuff?
Like with like telling how far something away is. Here's
Yeah.
another video of Sirius here. You can see it's the same rainbow jelly looking thing. It's a separate video than the other one. I had to wait up to like 3 o'clock in the morning just to see it. I mean, it's incredible.
Does NASA have a picture of Sirius?
I'm sure you could Google it and look it up and see what it is. Look at that. I don't know how well it's showing up for you guys, but that's pretty much Sirius right there. I actually want to upload these and actually put them in a montage so they'll actually show up better.
Yeah. They're saying that that astronomers would say that it's out of focus, and it's like, well, no, it isn't. As you focus it really tight, you just get a pin of the light. You don't actually see any color or any resolution to it. That's what I'm saying is like you can't tell that the distance is that far away because you can't focus on it very well.
Well, I got it focused in as far as it'll go. That's the thing. That's what they'll say. They'll say that's out of focus. How's that out of focus? You can see the actual detail of the star. There's no out of focus there. You know, It's perfectly in focus as far as I can go.
I'm going to talk about another article because I want to talk about ground stuff that people can just look at and go, oh, okay. So let's see what we get here.
Okay.
Yeah. Is this one up? I'm thinking that everybody sees this. The Michigan Mirage. This is one of the ones that happened at the exact same time as I was researching flat Earth and basically a flat earther, long-time geocentrist. And I'm like, yeah, the Earth's probably flat. And then you have stuff like this is from 2016. This is where someone sent an image to the news. It skipped their little intro article. It had the news thing. They sent the picture to the news saying, "Look at this great picture that I took of Chicago across Lake Michigan, and it's from 40 miles away." They actually calculated it 53 miles away, and the news had to debunk itself by saying that, well, we showed a picture of Chicago the other day, and people were saying that you shouldn't be able to see that behind a curve of the Earth. So they come up and they said they have a newscast on here that says that what you're actually seeing is a mirage. It's not actually the skyline. It's a mirage of the city. Now, this one here looks almost like an artist rendering, but this one right here is the picture that I have for the thumbnail of this video, where this is taken on the other side of the bay, and you can clearly see Chicago here. And these buildings are like 200 to 300 feet tall at the tallest. And they should be completely invisible because it'd be behind like 300 feet of curve. Now at 50 miles, we can do 50 miles. Let's see. We'll do the old calculation for it. So we'll say 40 miles because I'm used to saying that. So 40 squared, because we're doing 40 miles, times 40 then. So 1,600 times 8 for 8 inches equals 12,800 inches. And then we'll divide that by 12 to get the feet. 1,066 feet should be below the horizon, depending on where the person is standing. If you're standing on the shore of the water, it would be 1,000. The city would be 1,066 feet below Earth curve. like looking around a corner. So this picture is completely impossible. And they're saying, oh, no, it's a mirage. It's a mirage, which mirages do happen. But this is not a mirage. You see, this isn't upside down. This isn't a mirror reflection. This isn't a mirror image or anything like that. It is very clearly the skyline of Chicago. No trickery, no nothing. And here it does have a picture where it's the same person took the picture where, no, you're wrong. I took a picture of a mirage before, and you can see it probably doesn't come through very well over the internet, but this little kind of fuzzy stuff up here, this is an upside down city. This is where the horizon has been mirrored because of the miraging effect. So it's not that a mirage can't happen, but a mirage does not look like this does not look very far. This looks like it's maybe 10 miles away. Someone would have to tell you that, no, this is a 40-mile away picture. And in here, they also had the map, of where this person always takes the pictures from right here and always takes them across this bay, which apparently says right here, distance from Warren's Dunes State Park is 53 miles from this point to this point. And you're seeing Chicago, which there should be 1,000 feet of earth curvature over that arc. And what they say down here they explain it or try to explain it on a lot of these debunking sites. They always feel they got to stick up for the scientists. This is hilarious. See, this is what we mean when says you're looking around a curve. So this is where the guy is taking a picture from, and this is Chicago, and here's earth curvature. So at a certain point, it's impossible. Once you get farther away, this boat would be over here. You would not be able to see it. Now, how people explain it away, just like gravity, right? Gravity is going to explain it away. What they say is light bends around the curve because you guessed it. Gravity. Right? You take that laser light you play with the cat with, and if you shoot it for a long enough distance, it like bends. No. That's fantasy. Complete, utter fantasy. They say this light is bending. It has to have a medium. It has to be fiber optic cable. That's how you bend light. That's it. But that's how they explain it. Complete and total nonsense. So what do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I muted my mic so that way my noisy chair didn't interfere with that.
The chair wasn't the problem. Is like when you pulled up another application, though, my voice was getting doubled in my headset, and hopefully that didn't go out to everybody. But that was the only thing that was a little off with that. But otherwise, yeah, squeaky chair, no problem. Okay. So there is a lot of pictures like this. This is the one that I know right off the top of my head that was going on the exact same time as I basically was a flat earther. I just didn't admit it yet. And I honestly, I still don't. I say I'm not a globe earther. That's as far as I'll go because I don't know really what we live on. And obviously, the earth isn't perfectly flat. No. Not unless you're on a sand dune or you're on water, right? You have mountains, you got holes in the ground. Okay, we understand this. So I know that for a fact it is not a globe. Absolutely cannot be a globe. Even if they made the earth 100 times the size of what they currently say it is, it's still proven wrong because the long distance photograph, I thought I had this one up. No, this is something else. The long distance photograph is something like 200 miles. Okay, so this is one from just an amateur guy with a P900 or something taking the skyline. But the record is like 200 something miles taken from a mountaintop, and they can see another mountaintop a couple hundred miles away. And you're thinking, well, yeah, but they're mountaintops. Well, over 200 miles, that mountain should be like, 10 miles below the curve. There's no mountains that are that tall, and you can look at them and see the entire mountain. I wish I didn't close that page out, but so I could show it. But there is image upon image upon image. People can go out and go do it themselves and figure out and prove to themselves. You don't need us to prove it to you. You need to prove it to yourself. We're the ones trying to explain the easiest way to go about this. The easiest way to go prove it to yourself, go find some tall landmark you can see from a long distance and see how far you can see it. Things like not buoys, but lighthouses. What would be the point of lighthouses if you could only see them 3 miles out? Right? I realize that they're tall, right? But they're not that tall. They're like 60 feet off the ground. What good are they? What good are they if you can only see them from like 5 miles out? Makes no sense. Unless the earth is flat and you can see them from a lot longer than that, especially at nighttime. How the world works is all based on flatness. And now maybe we want to, I don't know if you want to get into like satellites and how our communication works and NASA tricking everybody. What do you think?
What's that now? I'm sorry.
Did you want to get into NASA trickery and how come we have GPS and how do satellites work and all of this and that and the other thing?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Sure. Well, obviously we didn't fly to the moon. Okay.
Right.
Obvious. Now, the whole thing of whether or not satellites exist is when you watch them take off, do they actually, do the rockets ever go up? Or do they go up and then about 30,000 feet decide to keel over like an airplane and fly sideways? At every launch, they want to keel over and fly sideways. And then they say, oh, that's because it's going around the spin of the earth. You know how much more fuel that takes to fly over the earth that way as opposed to just going straight up? So not saying that that's the nail in the coffin, just saying that is very peculiar. What is somewhat of a nail in the coffin is the fact that NASA, if you want to buy helium on any significant quantity, and by significant quantity, I mean more than just filling up balloons. Okay. If you want to buy like a tank of helium, I don't know, 100 square feet of helium for whatever reason, you got to go through NASA to get it. The world has to go through NASA to get it. And the big deal about uranium is not nuclear power for Iraq or Iran. Oh no, they're going to get nukes because nukes don't exist. Is that's how you make helium. You literally make helium by stripping it off of uranium. And I don't know how anything about that process works, but that is the whole deal with and it's like, why would NASA care about helium? Well, NASA is the number one consumer of helium on the planet by a long shot. And there's plenty of videos and photographs of our quote unquote satellites being hooked up to these balloons that go up and stay up for months and months and months at a time. And that provides us our communications. It's a fact. Anybody can Google that over 90% of our communication is carried out through land cables underneath the sea, right? Connecting all the continents. It's all ground-based towers, ground-based everything with some satellite stuff, some of it. But if our communications and GPS was coming from satellite, why do we have dead spots? Why do our cell phones only work inside such and such network, right? Generally around the highways and the cities. That's the only place your cell phones work. Well, if all this stuff is satellite communications, right? Well, it's not. It's balloons. You look up into the night sky, as any amateur astronomer would. You look up there and you see these tracer lights. They're not stars. They're lights. They're not comets. They're a lot of times there's 2 or 3 of them at once that are in a formation traveling across the sky faster than stars and everything else. And people will go, aha, there's satellites up there. How would you possibly see a satellite orbiting in quote unquote space? It's impossible. However, if you take into the fact of these balloons they send up that go up to 120,000 feet, which are just, a standard weather balloon, you can look up that stuff. They inflate to a couple 100,000 square feet of, like, their balloon gets that big, right? So you get something that size, the size of the Superdome, up there floating around up overhead in a wind current with your satellite dangling down the bottom of it. Yeah, you could probably see that from the ground, especially with the reflection from the sun, because those weather balloons like are reflective material. It seems like what they look like. And it's like, well, that makes perfect sense. Absolute perfect sense.
Yeah, they are. Like, have you ever seen like that light will come over the horizon near the sun? It's like really bright. And then all of a sudden, as it moves away from the sun, it dims out. Yeah, that's been proven before. It's weather balloons that have a metallic property to them that shines. And some of them are actually made of aluminum, like a light aluminum material. That's already been proven years and years ago.
Just to fake us out or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Just make you think
I suppose if they heated up the, it's actually probably a thing where if they make the balloon absorb heat, it would have a different property to the helium. I would
Yeah.
expect, because everything's cold up there. I would assume. Maybe keep it aloft a little bit longer or something. But yeah, anytime every 5 to 10 years you hear about satellite crashing, oh, that means their balloon popped. That's what that means. That's literally what that means. And nobody is lying to you if you have satellite television, satellite radio in your car or whatever. Nobody is lying to you, because anything over 100,000 feet is considered space. Okay, for purposes of NASA and their satellites and your satellite television, satellite radio, they call it. For purposes of that is considered space. I think it's 120,000 feet and up or something. There's a zone that you're not allowed to go into for any reason. Amateur rocket builders can't go in there or anything like that. And that's considered, for commercial purposes, space. All right. There ain't no geocentric satellites doing the spin with no. There's the balloons up there. More than likely, everything is actually that the consumers use is going to be ground-based towers. Because what would we need satellites for? It's just better by tower, right? The whole big thing now is coming out with 5G, and they're actually putting up like towers every couple of blocks, or sender receivers every couple of blocks. And it's like, well, seems like technology is going backwards, isn't it? Because the current wireless, you can have a sender receiver like a mile out. Now we're putting them every few blocks. Granted, it's faster, but it's like, why aren't we bouncing all this stuff off satellites? Oh, because it's all fake. That's right. It's all fake.
Yeah.
One of these days we'll get to the moon. Hey, we already went to the moon. Oh, I mean, we're going to go back to the moon.
Sure we are.
My favorite part is the explanation behind that is we destroy ourselves. We taped over the tapes with the telemetry data that told us how we got to the moon in the first place. We taped over them, guys. Just like the wedding video. We taped over it. Yeah.
It's like with people that argue the the moon or whatever, that we went to the moon. Like, come on, guys, really? And now they're saying that now that they can't even get back to the moon with supposedly better technology. I mean, it's a load of crap.
So now that we've been going for almost a couple of hours, we can get into like what actually changes when you accept the fact of that what you live on. You accept the truth, and what you live on is a flat plane. What actually changes in your life? From day-to-day life, nothing. If you don't tell anybody about it, nothing changes. You still have to deal with idiot neighbors and your boss and all that stuff.
Let me show you this real quick. All right, I'm going to share my screen for a second to show you guys an article about this stuff. All right, if you go right here, look at this. A 21st century renaissance in high altitude ballooning. There you go. There's your reflective balloon. It's right there.
Yeah, we got to give her 15 seconds to catch up. There it is.
Yeah, there you go. There's your high altitude balloon that is really big. And like I said, it's probably about the size of a football stadium. And they have a reflective property, which makes them shine. And you can go in here and read all about all this stuff. I'm not going to. It'd take too long.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of good sites out there. Probably like Globebusters is probably one. Dave Weiss is Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole is the one with Dave Weiss, which I found probably the best, where he has the really, really short videos where they have the research and where they go back to like pretty much the 1950s where they invented all this stuff. And they actually show them launching what looks exactly like a satellite they say they're putting in space. They have it attached to a balloon and they call it a satellite launch, right? All of this history that's been hidden and covered up and before the internet and all that, because someone actually has to scan that document. Oh, don't want to have to scan the document and put it up. So you got to worry about with the internet is great and all, but unless somebody puts in the actual documents, say your history can change on a dime. It's all digital. They call it the Mandela. Well, anyone can change anything when it's digital, which is why they want the schools and all that stuff to go into. Everybody has their own laptop. Then we can change the curriculum. Hey, Earth's 4 billion years old. Nah, we're going to make it 8 billion years. That suits our narrative this week. And they just change it the next, and then you get it wrong in the test and you go, hey, what's the deal? It said 4 billion in the textbook, and the teacher pulls up the computer and goes, nope, says 8 billion. So there you go. I mean, that's how our history is written.
Yeah.
So like, what happens when you accept the truth? You know, as much as you want to, really, it doesn't really affect you at all, except your inner struggle and pretty much taking your ego, a sledgehammer to your ego, and accepting the fact that you've been misled, you've been lied to, and you were gullible. Pretty much, you have to accept that. But beyond that, you don't have to go out and go say trumpet to the world. Hey, it's a flat, it's flat, it's flat. You don't have to do nothing. But what is also going to change is, like myself, I like science fiction stuff. You know, I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek, but I like space stuff and space adventure stuff. And I actually, you know, I used to write that stuff, and it's like I can't write that stuff anymore because I know it's completely fake, like completely fake. And I don't feel right about propagating the idea of space myself personally, but I got no problem watching a Netflix show, you know? So all of these things, you know, it is incredibly freeing though, that you don't need to worry about that section of conspiracies. You don't need to worry about cattle mutilations anymore. You don't need to worry about gray aliens coming from some other planet. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff. You don't need to worry about the meteor that they say is going to impact you. Boy, what a bunch of crap all that was, huh? Where they got the day-to-day update where the meteor's coming in closer and closer and closer to the atmosphere and just skims the top and goes away. And NASA goes, see, we told you so. We were safe all along. And it's like the whole thing was a hoax. None of that stuff is real. So it is freeing in the sense that you don't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore. You just, you know, aliens are demons. So if you're a saved guy, you don't have to worry about that. If you're lost, well, you have fun with the demons. I don't know. I don't know what you got to do to get those guys after you, but there's your space aliens for you. Otherwise, they're, you know, psyops essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. What else do you kind of throw out the window with flat Earth, other than, of course, astronomy, cosmology?
Right.
That's obviously all a hoax and all garbage. Believe it or not, made up by science fiction writers. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
Well, I mean, like I told you before, that all the planets were named after pagan gods. So, sure. I mean,
well, all of our stuff now, all of our satellites and space equipment is all still named after pagan gods.
Yeah, and a lot of the, you know, you go look at Babylon, ancient Babylon, and they still do that today in the form of the Catholic Church, sun worship. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, don't tell me that this stuff was not made up by, you know, pagans. It was. Every bit of it was.
Well, and they're all still involved in that heavily.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Somebody asked a question: do balloons, are they stationary? No, they're not stationary. They go along with the jet stream or whatever is up there. Most of the time, it is a jet stream, and they're carried along that over a large area. You know, like we have one here in North America, and it's usually how they work. And you can even look that up. That's where they get carried from. That's why they look. It's why you look up and they appear to move very slow. You know, just like a little light. It's not like a plane. It's moving too slow to be a plane.
And where I am in Minnesota, we have the jet stream runs right through Minnesota, which is why it's both the hottest and the coldest place pretty much in the America. They go incredibly fast to where and there's a lot of them in Minnesota. When I look up, I'll see several at night, and they're tumbling across the sky. And yeah, that's the old jet stream there.
Right. And usually like that big one, you know, the one that's really bright and then it shows up in front of the sun. Every one of those I've seen, they move very slow. You know, they don't move super fast or anything like that. But I have seen some that do move pretty quick. Usually they're smaller, but the bigger ones, you know, they usually are the ones that are moving very slow. From what I've seen.
That was the other thing too that got me out of space and satellites. Was the only real space thing that I cared about was the Hubble telescope, which is a bunch of garbage. The old Hubble telescope that, according to Hubble, I actually have it on my my other channel, I think, where I did a video on it about how the Hubble telescope can apparently see a dime on the top of the Washington Monument. Right? That's how precise this thing is from orbit. And I'm like, that's a load of crap. Because if you're outside the atmosphere, you're not going to see hardly anything. They have the same problems as a guy from the ground looking outside of the atmosphere. It's not like that goes away because it's a better telescope. So I said, okay, if that's the case, then why can't you look to where the lunar lander is and surely you could see something there, right? Logically, or couldn't you zoom all the way out and see like maybe the whole planet? I don't know. And that whole thing of like, we can only show you photoshopped images from Hubble. We can't show you a picture. It has to be a photoshopped colored picture of a nebula somewhere that they put a bunch of phony colors into. It can't actually be, well, why don't you just take a picture of the lunar rover? Good enough for me, right? Can't do it. And it makes sense now because there is no satellites up there. They have a telescope in a jet that drives around and they do stuff with that, and it's all ground-based telescopes. That's how they do everything.
Well, they even got one called Lucifer.
Oh, I don't doubt it. And CERN and all that stuff. It's all pagan, satanic nonsense with all the naming, and a lot of the people involved in it. They're very heavily involved in witchcraft and spellcraft. And I'm not talking like just simple mind control type spellcraft where you're using people's psychology against them and you're using speech patterns to try and mind control people like a magician would. I'm talking like they got the juju and they got their chickens that they're going to cut the heads off of and all that stuff. I mean, like the real stuff, those guys that are involved in CERN are all into that stuff. It's amazing. Like, yeah, that's the guy I want leading my my incredibly expensive scientific program is a guy who's, running around naked outside with chicken blood on him, doing a juju dance or something for spirits. But that's who they got. That's who they got. They got a bunch of Aleister Crowleys out there. Truth is stranger than fiction. And then, unless you're talking about flat Earth, unless it's like, no, fiction's way more interesting. But it's like, oh, it's flat. Oh, there goes Star Trek.
The Star of Bethlehem was not an actual star; it was an angel. Stars in the Bible are always reference to angels. By the way, I hear that one a lot too. It's like, oh, the stars in the Bible. Most of the time, they're referenced to angels. I think the few times it's referenced to actual stars or lights, they're actually called lights in Genesis chapter 1. So the Star of Bethlehem was an angel. It wasn't an actual star. So I just want to throw that out there because people say that the three wise men were astrologers. I actually heard that argument before, so I kind of wanted to.
Where do people get that from?
Because the Star of Bethlehem,
How do they get that they were astrologers?
I don't know, but that's one of the arguments. That's one of the big arguments I've heard. I've actually heard this argument that this Thomas guy right here is talking about that the three wise men were astrologers or astronomers because they saw the Star of Bethlehem. Well, the Star of Bethlehem was an angel. It was the angel of the Lord. So that's a weak argument. Because stars in the Bible, like I said, are referenced.
Well,
to angels.
if you want to touch on just a couple of the Bible topics, I guess.
Okay.
As for what for the Christians out there to say our book talks all about it. I only know of a couple of references. I mean, everything else is sort of relative. I don't go into the Bible definitely proves it one way or another yet, but maybe you can change my mind, Jeremy.
Yeah. I mean, I can do that.
This can honestly be an entire program all in itself. So we can just skim the basics and call it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, like I said, three wise men were not astronomers, so I don't know where you're getting that from. It was the Star of Bethlehem was an angel. It was not a luminary. Sorry to bust your bubble, but it's an angel. Stars in the Bible are always referenced to angels. And on top of that, here's a couple of verses for you, and I'm going to show you some. All right, Genesis chapter 1. This is one that, people just kind of read over and they're just kind of like, what's that?
You got to share it? You're going to share it or you're just going to read it?
I'm going to share it. Yeah, I'm going to share it in the thing.
Okay.
I'm actually going to share the actual verse, but I'm actually going to read a little bit here. I'm going to read from verse 7. Genesis chapter 1, verse 7, God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. Waters above the firmament, by the way. And the firmament is the dome. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. Okay, you have three heavens, basically. You have the atmosphere that we supposedly live in, and you have the sky, the second heaven, and then you have the third heaven, which is where God dwells. Okay, I think we all understand that. All right, so the heaven he's talking about here is the atmosphere and the sky, because he goes on to create the stars and the greater and lesser light, the moon and the sun.
Are you showing something now, or
No, I can't pull it up on my computer. I don't have a
Okay.
Bible app on my computer. I'm
Okay.
reading it from my phone, and then I'm gonna post a verse in the actual chat.
Okay.
But anyway, actually, you know what? Yeah, I can do that. I can go to Bible Gateway and do it. Hold on, that'll be easier. I didn't even think about that. I barely even use this. I've barely
Well,
even
I
used
have
this
to.
computer.
It doesn't just let you automatically share your screen. I actually have to okay it and put it on the thing. That's why I was asking. If you're pointing stuff out on the screen, I don't see that you're sharing or something.
No, I'm not sharing it. I'm pulling it up right now. Hold on. But let's see here. Share screen. Share screen. King James Bible. Genesis. Okay. I don't really like Bible Gateway that much. It's kind of a hard thing to use sometimes. All right, so right here, Genesis chapter 1, verse 7, it says, God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas, and God saw that it was good. All right, so right here, verse 10 is the key verse because it says God called the dry land earth. He didn't say anything about the oceans being part of the earth. So the ocean is not part of the earth. It's another world, basically. And it's another entity. It's not part of the earth. The earth is dry land. And you'll see that a lot in the Bible that the dry land is referred to the earth a lot more than that. And also, there's plenty of times too in the Bible where it talks about the ends of the earth. I don't think you have ends on a globe. You don't. Okay, there's no ends of the earth on the globe because you just basically go round and around and around. Okay.
Yeah.
So the ends of the earth would be like the ends of it. You can't go any further. That's it. And what would be the ends of that? Well, Antarctica. You know, basically the ice ring.
Could be. Again, you could say expression, but yeah.
All right, so we just saw right here in verse 7, God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And this is where I can prove the dome by scripture. Right here, you have waters above the firmament, okay, above heaven. Crazy, right? Well, if you go to Ezekiel chapter 1.
Wasn't that what space is, according to the Bible? Is space is water?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see here.
Because everything is made out of water, like 100%.
Right.
Then you have divisions in the water.
See, this is what I'm saying. This thing is so crazy. I don't. Let me just do this. This thing is so weird to use. Ezekiel chapter 1. I mean, I'm just hitting on a few. There's tons of other things I could talk about when it comes to this. I have like hundreds of scriptures on this thing, but I'm just hitting a few of them. All right, if you go to verse 22, okay, in the previous verses here, it's talking about the cherub. The cherub have 4 wings. They're a type of angelic being. They're not angels, but they're a type of heavenly being, okay? And most of the time, cherubs were used to guard the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve were kicked out. So, but anyway, with that being said, it's talking about cherubs that are underneath the firmament itself. And it tells you what the firmament is right here. And it says in verse 22, and the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of the terrible crystal stretched forth over their heads above. What does that mean? Glass, like an ice, you know, because it's water above it. So, and it just kicked me off of Ezekiel chapter 1. Don't you just love that? And under the firmament were their wings straight, the one toward the other. Everyone had two, which covered on this side, and everyone had two, which covered on that side, their bodies. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings, like the noise of great waters, as the voice of the Almighty, the voice of speech, as the noise of a host. When they stood, they let down their wings, and there was a voice from the firmament that was over their heads when they stood, and had let down their wings. And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone. Upon the likeness of the throne was a likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it, which is talking about God. Okay, God's throne. It's right above the firmament. And he's speaking from the firmament. Okay.
Mhm.
There you go. There's your dome. It's made of glass. And God is above it. He's in the northern part of it. The Bible talks about he's on the sides in the north. And just think about that. You go look at the Polaris star. God's throne is right above that.
And from what we know about what we can actually observe, we do have pressure gradients. We don't know that there's space out there in the way that it's described to us. That's a completely we're believing and having faith in that there is scientists say there's space out there, but we don't know that. We know we have pressure gradients though, and we know when it rains we get a curved rainbow, and it seems like that curved rainbow would have to be reflecting off something. That is just what it seems like to me.
Right.
I can't be dogmatic other than the Bible seems to indicate, at least to me, that the firmament can be an expanse. And it makes more sense to me that the stars are set in some type of a dome thing, and everything kind of circles like that. That's why the North Star doesn't move.
And I can go back to that too in Genesis chapter 1. It says right here, in verse 14 in Genesis chapter 1, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament for heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also, which also overthrows the whole idea that the moon gives off its own light. I don't believe the moon. I mean, take that back. I believe the moon gives off its own light. It does not reflect from the sun.
That's actually demonstrably provable.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit more into how people can prove this stuff for themselves. What people are doing now is it's still very young, and we don't have millions upon millions of dollars to do tests. So we're doing tests with backyard equipment, but things like a guy puts a thermometer outside where it's inside a box where there's no moonlight getting to it, and he has a temperature, and then he moves the thermometer out into the moonlight and it gets colder. How do you explain that? If it's reflected sunlight, you can't.
Yeah.
The moon has to make its own light that has a different effect on things than the sunlight. And it would make sense that it would get cooler and put things to rest when it's the moon's up. Wonderful, wonderful things. And once you realize that everything is created and you're not on a spinning ball and you're not descended from a monkey, hey, it's all great. It's all great. Now you can actually go out and explore things. See, another reason that a lot of people don't come across good, truthful information is they're really quick to believe a lot of things because that means they don't have to do any work, right? If everybody has already discovered everything, if everybody has already explored everything, everybody has invented everything, then you're done. You just get to sit around and, watch television, right?
Yeah.
Play around on video games, watch television, do whatever, because everybody has already done everything. That is, I think, what the big problem is, and what stops people from looking into stuff is because people have already figured it out. There's thousands of people that get paid to do this stuff. And that's the thing, is there's lots of people that get paid to do the stuff. All your love of money, root of all evil. There's people who get paid just to deceive you. And the people who get paid are the ones who are more likely to deceive you because they actually have a reason to. The people who put the money out of their own pocket to go out and test things and put their own name on the line. Trust me, I don't want to be a flat earther. Okay. You get a lot of flack. There is absolutely no reason anyone would want to go out there and do it unless they're getting a huge paycheck from someone and they're out there just to lie and do, like the what is it called? Flat Earth Society or something.
Yeah.
The officials, unless you're like Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins does not believe evolution, guys. There's no way. The guy is smart. There is no way he believes evolution, but he'll accept the lie. He doesn't have a moral authority or anything like that. He'll accept the lie because they'll give him millions of dollars and a nice house to go out there and lie about evolution and say he believes it and argue it and do whatever because he doesn't care. But there's no way he doesn't know there's a God. These smart people, you know, they may not believe in Jesus. They may follow Lucifer. They may follow, there's guys out there who follow Odin, you know, but they believe in God. Because these secret societies out there, if you don't believe in God, they consider you too stupid to join. Okay. Just letting you know. So, yeah. All them guys that are like hardcore atheists and Neil deGrasse Tyson and all that. Yeah, they're getting paid to say stuff and they don't mind lying to you.
Right. And just another verse here, going back to Genesis chapter 1. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. But yeah, this is going back. This is a reference to Genesis chapter 1. This is 2 Peter chapter 3. And people don't actually know that this is actually in the chapter. They just kind of look over it like, yeah, that's nice. But I'm going to start in verse 3. And it says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. Mm-hmm. There you go. There's another one. The earth standing out of the water and in the water. So you're telling me the earth is not part of the oceans? Absolutely. It's not. The earth and the ocean are two different things. Standing out of the water and in the water. It's standing out. It's standing out of the water, you know?
Yep. And that will lead us into V. Thomas just says we're not allowed to explore. I kind of forgot about that. I did mention that there is a treaty that keeps people like, why don't you just fly around the South Pole? Look, no one can go circumnavigate the world north to south. You can't. It's impossible. No one's ever done it. Everyone goes east to west, west to east. And they go, well, how can you do that on a flat earth? Well, the same way you do it on a globe. You go around in a circle.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. Now, when we're talking about the exploration of the South Pole, you can't go there. Countries say that the penguins are going to get sick if you allow people to go to Antarctica. That's what they say. And all of these nations that we're just at war with in World War II, everybody agreed that nobody can go to Antarctica unless you're the president or somebody important, unless you're a high Freemason. Okay. It's the only people who can go there. And that's been in place since like 1950 something. And that's in place until 2040. And they will not let you go there. You can buy a tourist package for a whole bunch of money to go down there, and someone stuck a pole in the ground on the shore of one of the ice around the ice ring somewhere. And they say that's the South Pole. And you can snap your picture next to the barber pole and say, yay, I'm in Antarctica. And that's a fraud. Okay. That's a fraud. So it's not like we can't say for certain what is out there around the edge of around the edge. And there can't even say there's an edge to the earth. We have no idea.
Right.
The military and from every country prevents people from going there. Normal people. It's just not a thing. And the same thing with going up. If once you get into that over 120,000 feet, you're in space, and that's, you know, a secure zone or something. But there is stuff you can do. We don't need to know this. It'd be fun. I'd like to know what's over there. But it's not needed. I think that 8 inches per mile squared is enough of a knockout punch, because everybody can do that everywhere, literally everywhere. If you have a long, straight, flat road, you could just about run a gyroscope through that to measure curvature.
Right.
Because if you start a gyroscope up, it should spin flat and level based on where you start it. And if you got a nice, good, long, straight, and from your starting and ending point, if they are the same sea level, you can take a long car ride and subtract or add your sea level or whatever. And if your gyroscope is still level, you know that it's flat. Okay. Just throwing it out. There's a lot of different simple things people can do. And being able to see beyond 3 miles from the shore of a lake and being able to look across the lake, that is rock bottom proof. You cannot deny that. You can talk all about sun and the moon and most people, when they say that flat Earth is busted, what they're saying is they found a model that somebody put up there to explain seasons, to explain sunrise and moon phases and all this stuff. And there was problems with their model. So when they say flat Earth is busted, they busted some guy's model. That was just something that they think this is how it works. You know, there's no proving it, right? And we don't believe in belief, more or less, in flat Earth. Is like only things we can prove. And then if it's something that we speculate about, we say speculation. We speculate that there's an ice ring around what would be the outskirts of the oceans called Antarctica. And the best reason for that is because they show us that in the NATO flag. Okay. That's what the NATO flag shows. That's what the explorers out there seem to indicate, that there is a large wall in Antarctica that they tried sailing around for a long time and never found an inlet. Admiral Byrd, who's flying around down there. And Operation High Jump is an operation in the 50s with Werner von Braun. They want to go down there, shoot nukes, and check out the ice wall. So there is a lot of, quasi, pretty good evidence. You can't call it fact that we're surrounded by an ice wall, but it's looking pretty good. The same thing with the dome is like, well, we have what's written in the Bible, and I'll roll with that. But you also have pressure gradients, and you have rainbows, and things like that really can kind of only happen in a dome. And especially if you want to believe in space, you got to have some kind of a barrier there.
Yeah.
What else we got here? We're looking
Okay. I have got Exodus 20 verse 4 pulled up here. And this is very interesting too. People often don't pay attention to this, but it says, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth." Wait a minute. I thought the earth was a globe. So how can water be under the earth?
Well, some guys in Australia are fishing.
That's not under the earth.
I don't know.
So you're telling me that there's water in space under the earth?
Right. This is where we get into the Bible seems to indicate that the earth is flat.
It is.
It doesn't say right out there the earth is flat, because you know what? Everybody knew the earth was flat.
Yep.
And it's only the people who want to try and control you, inject your babies with 35 shots full of aluminum and aborted baby fetuses, and want you to wear a huff and puff on a mask to deny yourself of oxygen, put you in basically a concentration camp of public schooling where they teach you absolute garbage from kindergarten all the way through. That's what those people want to tell you. Nobody back in the Bible days was that dumb. You're going to tell somebody they live on a spinning ball, traveling thousands.
Everybody knew, right? Everybody knew when the Bible was being written that the earth was flat. Everybody knew.
And all of the relative terms in there are indicating that the earth is flat.
Right.
It's like there would be no point to writing down that the earth was flat in the Bible, because everybody knew it.
And people probably ask, well, what's the water under the earth? Well, the Bible talks about the great deep that's under the earth.
The fountains of the deep broke open. That's how everything got flooded out.
Right. So, and that fountain of the deep was started by God. Right. It was broken by God, of course. Here's another one, Revelation chapter 7. "And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree." Now, if I do recollect, does a ball have corners? I don't think so.
No.
So what are the 4 corners? Personally, I believe it's the 4 corners of each major continent. That's just my opinion.
But you got a dinner plate up there is flat earth, man. That doesn't have corners either.
Well, it is what it is.
The thing is that people say ice wall, and some flat earthers who are really hardcore, who want to be as accurate as possible, say that it is not an ice wall, because a wall implies that there is you jump off the other side, right? Like the wall is a container. It's a basin. Like if you look at the moon, there's craters, and we are in an ocean in the middle of the crater, and the outside of the crater would be considered the basin of the ice. So there's a hole in the ice, and we sit inside of it. Nobody knows what is on the other side, and it's not a wall. It's just a basin. You're sitting inside a teaspoon with some water, and the teaspoon's made of ice.
Yeah. Thousands of people visit Antarctica every year. Proof on that?
Yes, thousands of people visit the tourist site known as Antarctica, where they literally stick a barber pole into the ground and say, "Welcome to Antarctica."
Yeah.
There's
that's
other
the
things
thing.
you can get into with that that'll be for future times where we can look at flights. And you can
Yep.
tell if you want to go from South America to Australia, you would think you would just ride that one parallel all the way through, and that would be the easiest route on our globe. No, they go to New York. They fly all the way up to New York from, the very southern tip of South America, fly all the way up to New York, and then they fly, carry on to New Zealand. Well, that makes absolutely no sense on a globe, but you put it on a flat map and it's a straight line. Okay, there's a lot of things like that. You look at the currents that are in the oceans and the currents that are in what's called the jet stream. They look like they go all over the place and they're completely unpredictable when you have them on a ball, but you put them on a flat Earth and they go in perfect circles. Right? The speeds are variable. What everything is speed is going on with these different things is all variable, but they're going in circles. Very predictable patterns, like sea lanes and things like that.
Yeah.
Everything makes more sense on flat stuff, which of course it would, because all of our technology is based on flat Earth principles. At least anything that works. All the stuff that doesn't works, that is theoretical, that doesn't depend on it working, is all E equals MC squared, theory of relativity nonsense, garbage, useless, fantasy Star Trek science.
Right. Here's another one here too about let's see here. Let me go to Psalm. Now, I'm not gonna go over everything I have in the Bible about this. But I'm gonna show a few things. Like, what about the sun? Okay. Well, sun right here in Psalm 19, it says the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Yeah. I mean, the heaven is God's handiwork, the firmament, the dome, whatever you want to call it. Day unto day uttereth speech, night unto night sheweth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. Oh, really? End of the world, huh? Mm-hmm. And them had he set a tabernacle for the sun, S-U-N, not S-O-N, by the way, which is a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoicing as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it. There is nothing hid from the heat thereof. That tells you right there the sun's on a circuit. And if you go back to Joshua, God actually stops the sun. He didn't stop the earth spinning. He stopped the sun from moving.
And the moon, which is how you know it's not just the earth. That's what convinced me that the earth can't be moving, by the way.
Right. Oh, there's plenty of other verses about the earth can't be moving, in the Bible.
Yeah, but the one that is scientific. See, I'm big in disproving evolution and science claims by using science against the science. Like this stuff, anything to do with NASA, space, it's all nonsense. And you can use regular science. And none of it follows the laws of science. None of it.
No.
You're going to have gas pressure on a planet inside a pure vacuum that violates the second law of thermodynamics. They don't have any problems violating laws with these mysticism type things. And you wonder, like, well, why don't people know? And why doesn't it get called out? And why isn't it so obvious? It's because they own all media. It's because everything is digitalized now. They can make changes to whatever. As soon as someone pokes a hole in one of their theories, they can kick the person off YouTube, silence him, and they can make changes to their formula instantly and update their webpage or update their textbooks or update their whatever to cover up the lie. This is how things work. There is nobody out there who is going to say, wow, you're such a remarkable person for standing up for the truth. No, you get beat in with a hammer completely until you're down and out. That's the reality of the situation, which is why it's important for people to go out and look for this stuff for themselves and don't depend on somebody to feed them answers. Because you never know, So I think that pretty well about wraps it up. We got a couple of questions in here with see if I can talking about numbers of astronomy. Mark Ryan wants to talk about astronomy. We can talk about astronomy in a little bit here, in the fact that we mentioned this before, that the Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. It's rotating around the sun at 60 to 66,000, somewhere in there. Everything comes up to 6666, whatever. 66,000 miles an hour rotating around, like orbiting the sun, and the sun is going like 600,000 miles an hour, and all of the planets are all corkscrewing and doing their things, just rocketing through. Since the time this stream has been on, we've probably gone 1 billion miles, right? Something like that. Everything is moving so fast, and it's all angular velocities, straight ahead velocities, all this stuff. None of us have felt like we've been moving at all in the last 2 hours. And tonight, the North Star is going to be the exact same spot it was last night, the exact same spot it was 100 years ago, the exact same spot it was 2,000 years ago. Keep on going back, back, back. It has not moved at all. At all. You can run a time lapse on it, and you can tell that the Earth is not moving from the time lapse photo in the way that the stars show up and make perfect lines in the sky too, instead of stuttering. But that's a whole different technical topic to get into. But if you look up time lapse North Star on Google, I'm sure you'll see it where the stars, they do perfect rings around the North Star. So all of this motion that's supposedly happening that nobody can feel, and our stars are all in the same place and have been that way for thousands of years. So there's where your science is.
It's like numbers prove that the Jupiter is going to be the exact same spot. What does that prove? It's
Well,
like
God set them up to be for signs and for seasons. He's not going to have errors in them.
No,
obviously the thing's going to be predictable. That's what it's designed for.
Right, because they're in the exact same spot every night. That's pretty easy to predict.
Yeah. I mean, we're just saying from our perspective. If you're arguing something from a science perspective or something like that, yeah, really no problems for it. But a lot of times there are other explanations, like especially with like globe Earth, or for a moving Earth. Their big proof is this guy who went and looked at all these pillars. You know, the one that I'm talking about, who gauged the shadow of the pillars, and that's how they figured out how big the Earth was and its rotation rate. Back in like 1000 AD or something, apparently this guy went out there and looked at a pillar in 2 cities in Egypt and said, well, the shadow at the same time of the day is here and here. Therefore, we can figure out we're 25,000 miles around and spinning. Amazing. It's amazing.
Right. And, if you're going to go back on the science thing, with the scientists and stuff, they're out there pushing evolution and stuff in schools, and you believe, and people believe evolution.
It's all related in a sense that the people that are a part of the lie too is like, the other big question is, well, obviously it's, why would they do this? Well, everybody knows they want to control the planet. I mean, it's a spiritual battle, guys. I mean, we can get into the whole things of why they would do it later. It's important to figure out you live on a flat plane right now. That's what's important. Once you get that through your head, you can worry about why. You can worry about that way down the road.
Yep.
But you have to understand that people are plugged into the system. The other big question is, well, wouldn't people that do all this stuff know that it's flat? And, like NASA, wouldn't they know? No. All those NASA things, everybody has security clearance, and they're all in charge of one tiny little aspect of a satellite. So you've got a handful of people by the time that whole thing goes together, and then you get a bunch of Freemasons and Jesuits and special forces guys out there to go launch the thing. And as far as people know, they're monitoring real satellites in space. Okay. They don't know any better. The people that have jobs like this, they don't think about it. They don't think about flat Earth. There's a lot of interviews with guys that do land surveying over long distances. And the surveyor said, no, it's all factored into the equation. And I go, really? It's factored into the equation. Do you know what it is? The Earth curvature equation? Nobody could answer it. And that's what they say about airplanes too, is that the autopilot figures it out, but nobody knows the equation. Nobody knows how it works. But, some of those pilots who are bright understand how their own equipment works and know that the thing's flat, and they're just not saying anything. Other people have a vested interest not to even listen to you, because if they find out that, how would you feel if you go to a job 50, 60 hours a week, working your tail off because, the such and such has to get done on time, and you need this part done, and you got to do this over here, and you're just swamped up over your head, and you find out you're working on a project that goes out into space and does nothing, right? You're finding you're working on a rocket or something, and it's literally just for a show that NASA can put on and bamboozle people. Your job is literally to make it look like NASA is a legitimate organization. And all the effort and all the hard work and all the sweat and the tears and all of the hours you've wasted just to be an actor in their little play. That's too much for a lot of people to handle at any level. The same with evolution in schools, and these professors and these guys. They can't come out and say that they don't think evolution doesn't works. They can't. Some of them have $100,000 educations in evolutionary biology. Okay. People can't take it. They can't take it. They get PTSD. They go, ah, and it's depressing and it's sad. It takes a very strong person to actually admit to that fact, and an even stronger one to come out and go, oh yeah, absolutely, it's flat. Here, you can prove it. See, you can see that thing over there across the lake. You shouldn't be able to. Ta-da. You know, it's freeing. Right. It's freeing. I would want to know for sure. If I heard this stuff, I would definitely want to know for sure. That's why I looked into it for so long. You got to know something like this, that big of a lie, you got to know. But, you know, you do feel kind of stupid. Like, yeah, why did I even listen to that? But again, it goes back to spellcrafting. You know, why did I listen to Denlinger so long? Same thing, spellcraft. Something I wanted to listen to. He can't be wrong, you know, same thing. These people get all this money. There's so many people that work for government. Not everybody can be lying. The same, you're spellcrafting yourself at that point. You're ignoring logical questions and actual scientific data to say, well, a lot of people work there and they couldn't, you know, everybody can't be a liar. And it's like, you're wrong. Yes, everybody can be a liar. Just because you wouldn't do it doesn't mean other people don't. And that's the trap that a lot of people fall into. And the reason that America is losing a lot of its freedoms is because they don't believe people could be that evil and that corrupted and that devious and that whatever. And it's like, yes, you're dealing with Satan. You're dealing with Satan and demons. That's from my perspective. You can call them chupacabras. You can call them gray aliens. You can call them whatever you want to from whatever religious background you want to, but you're dealing with evil spiritual powers that are capable of doing much worse things than lying to you. So yeah, it's up to you to go out and, you know, wake up and at least, you know, if you don't want to buy into it, go out and test it yourself. Go out and test 8 inches per mile squared. So take however many miles it is, times it times itself, and then you times it times 8 to get the amount of inches, and then you divide that by 12 to get the feet. And that's from a flat distance. So if you're 6 feet tall and you're looking out to whatever you're looking at, you'd subtract your 6 feet from it for your eye line or whatever. But it's not that complicated. I mean, if you can see something 30 miles away, you shouldn't be able to see it. Okay, that's just plain fact. You don't even need to worry about it at that point because you're 10,000 feet. It should be 10,000 feet hidden behind the curve. You know, I mean, come on. Unless you're standing on a 10,000 foot tall mountain, you shouldn't be able to see it. Really easy stuff. So I don't know if you got anything for closing remarks or anything, Jeremy. I think we're been going for pretty good for an opening session.
Well, you know, I just want to say this. If you're thinking that, well, why would these scientists and stuff lie to us, and why would they just keep such big secrets from us? Well, why don't you go watch The Matrix sometime? They pretty much put the truth right in front of you.
Right.
I mean, you were a slave.
You're a battery.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, you're a slave.
You're a slave, your battery, your food.
See, if you believe in evolution, then you're incapable of critical thinking, and then you realize, well, I have to be totally reliant on the system and not God, and not have critical thinking. See, people think they always equate God to religion and control. No, it's not.
Yeah, being a slave to God. Well, at least Christianity is not like that. People like to say they're slaves for Christ. That is completely incorrect.
That's ridiculous. You're not a slave to Christ, okay? You're bought with a price if you're saved, obviously, but you're not a slave. And the thing is, Jesus Christ came to the earth to set us free, you know. And the thing is, with that, difference between that and government, well, government wants you to, you know, do what they want you to do and pretty much live out your life and just feed the system. Whereas, yeah, as where we are, yeah, we're still a part of the system. Unfortunately, we really don't have a choice, but we realize what it is.
Right.
You know? So, you know, like I said, I challenge you to look up all the plain truth, PLANE, plain truth.
Yep.
And every movie, just go look it up, that they put it right in front of you. You're controlled. You're mind controlled. The media does not care about you. The government does not care about you. You're just a means to an end to them. That's it. And they all worship Satan at the top. And the Vatican over there in Italy owns all kinds of secret archives of hidden knowledge that they are keeping from the public. They've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years. So they were all the way back to when it was the Roman Empire and the Babylon days. So it's just
how much of that stuff I'd have to wonder if they're, I think that some of that stuff in the government's got their supercomputers and AI and killer robots and all this stuff, and I'm like, nah, I'm not falling into that. I think they have a little bit better stuff than what's out on the street, but I think that they tip their hand with smart technology because they want everyone to have it. They want to push it. And I think they're on the bleeding edge of what they can do with smart technology and data collection. And they're having a real problem sifting through because obviously whatever simulation they ran with Corvid, whatever, didn't work out the way they were expecting it to. So they also threw in the Black Lives Matter riots in the streets to try and shake things up, So I think that a lot of that is fear-based. You look at a lot of this stuff, it's fear. Okay.
Oh, it is.
You're going to control you all through fear. If you haven't done it now, stop watching the news. Okay. Don't listen to these, what are they? What is the BBC? That's just the government those are just government propaganda with British accents. Okay. It's the same thing. Fox and CNN, they're all owned by the same people, all these networks. And it's designed to keep you in a state of fear, to keep your immune system down. So you get sick, so you can go take their petroleum pills that are supposed to make you better, that give you cramps and all these other problems. It's a vicious cycle until you unplug from it. Let me tell you, understanding the truth and being open to the truth and receiving the truth sets you free. Okay. It sets you free. You go through this little bit of a shock, but once you're over the hurdle, nothing else can really phase you. It's like you spot lies like bam, 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 bam. You spot it right out there. I just did a thing on a guy who calls himself a pastor. He's really more of a carnival preacher dude, but I didn't see it before, but he's a spellcrafter. And I'm like, oh man, they all learned how to spellcraft from this other guy. And the way that they do their stuff, it's like, that's total mind control. And you spot it so easily. It's like a fresh pair of eyes on all of the garbage. And you can go out, and when you get out of the cities, you can appreciate it much more. Appreciate it for what it is. God's great creation in all its glory. It's a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and we'll just get into more stuff like that as we go along. More conspiracy stuff. We'll talk about aliens. We'll talk about anything. I mean,
yeah, we got a lot of time. Hopefully I won't get banned by next week or whenever we do the next one. Once they figure out who I am and what hidey hole I'm under.
Oh no,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll put together some topics and put together some fun stuff. What I'm really interested in doing is actually doing some recording, some demonstrating some things that people can do themselves for rotation, if the earth is moving, earth being flat. Yeah.
I've got my I was just going to say, Max, I got my P1000 camera. I can actually go out some places and actually record. And
there you go. Now you got your homework assignment. Now you have real school where you're learning something. Now you can go out and
great.
Does your cell phone I actually have a flip phone, so I don't know what cell phones do anymore. Your cell phone has a gyrometer thing in it, right?
I'm sure I can download one.
Well, because it has a motion sensor, because it knows when your screen is flipped, right?
Yeah, it does.
I forget what it's called. The same thing as like a Wii controller. Does it tell you what the elevation you're at there with GPS?
Oh, I do not know, actually.
I'm sure it probably does with your GPS. That'd be cool. So when you go out and do your photographs, make sure you take your elevation. Because otherwise people are just going to say, well, you're standing on a hill, so obviously you can see farther or something like that. So elevation is important, but that'd be awesome. Yeah, and then label your stuff this time so we can actually know what you're doing.
Yeah, I kind of came unprepared, and I apologize for that. It's been a long time since I've been on my camera. I haven't used it in almost 9 months, but I need a new tripod. Is what I need, but yeah, I definitely want to record some more videos of stars, and when I get a better tripod, I'm definitely going to do that. The ones I got of the moon were incredible. You look at the moon; it does not look like a round sphere at all. It looks like a disc. You know, when you actually zoom in all the way on it.
Sure.
So,
well, you can. Your channel is Rod of Iron KJV6. You better put it up or put it in chat or something. Jeremy has his YouTube channel. If you want to put stuff or reference stuff up on your channel,
yeah,
those videos you have, because 800. If you have like a gigabyte file, that's not going to go over the stream, but you could make a video and upload it, and that would be really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, my Rod of Iron channel. If you guys are interested in what the Bible has to say, I actually have 2 videos on the whole topic. I mean, I didn't really cover everything. If I were to cover everything the Bible says about it, it'd be about a 4 or 5 hour video. I mean, it's insane what the Bible says on this topic. And that's why I'm convinced, not just by the Bible alone, but I mean, it's a major part of it. But, you know, just because of what I can see with my eyes, and I can look up in the sky and tell that there's no such thing as space. That's a planetarium above us. It's not space. And I can look out and I can see flat water when I was living in the state of Florida, flat ocean, and I can see for miles upon miles upon miles. You know.
Yeah, and if you live in Texas and you're by the Gulf of Mexico, you know, you can see all of those oil derricks that go all the way out. Yeah, they're like 10, 15 miles out, some of them.
Yeah.
And you can see them all perfectly all the way out. Because I know from the Gulf of Mexico isn't very wavy, you know, for what it is. It's in a bay. Everything is relatively calm and flat, and it's hazy and very probably very muggy and very damp down there. So you probably couldn't see as far, but you know, on a cool night or something where you don't have a whole lot of condensation in the air, I bet you can see them things out 15 miles.
Right.
And you know exactly how high they are out of the water. And yeah, easy to prove. So, all right. Well, we've been going for a bit, and I think we got it at least enough to ponder on for the first episode. So I think we'll call it there. I'm going to try and regularly update stuff. So, of course, you know, subscribe and tick the bell thing and do all that stuff that you'd normally do, because we're going to come out with more and more and more. All right.
All right. Yep. Sounds good, man.
All right. Everybody have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Take care.